everybody. Ahmed again. My goodness, I'm on a roll here. This village idiot has just given me a lot of material to deal with. So anyway, this is Tuesday, March 10th. And I just wasn't really planning to do anything today, but I just read this article from my friend David Schultz. And it's very interesting talking about what's going on. David Schultz, as you all know, been on the show before, is a professor of political science and international law at Hamlin University in St. Thomas. But he wrote an article on Counterpunch about, he's been teaching in Romania now for a week or so, but he wrote it from there. And just the premises of the article that Trump war, the attack on Iran with Israel, it was built on the premises that it's all gone wrong. Just go there and take their oil, kill their supreme leader, and it's Iran all out, decapitated the system or the government, and people will rise up and welcome him with flower like Bush in Iraq. But things are not going very well. There is Iranian retaliation, resilience, 2 weeks now, and Israelis dragged, as you say, American into this. Now they are both trapped. The Israelis cannot muster, killing and civilian and hitting schools and water supply and oil tanks, and they start acting on their own to drag the American deeper and deeper in the war, and people start talking, well, how far are we going to go there, and how far are we going to stay with the Israelis and try to save them, because Iranian ballistic missiles now raining on Tel Aviv and other city, and the Israelis now crying foul and start retaliating and hitting civilian and oil tanks and water supply and all of this, because things are not going very well, and the global financial start wondering and complaining and not sustainable, all of this. And David Schultz is the capitalists and the capitalist system now started retaliating, and it's the only one who's going to stop Trump, not the Democrats, not the Supreme Court, not the Republican, not our political system. Can master any resistance, but the capitalist and the capitalist system now, stock market and global stock markets shutting down, and people start raising the price. And so, as his piece, the capitalist system has its own logic and its own tools of punishment. And that's what's happening now, punishing Trump, and is going to restrain them, and we're going to stop them from continue with this floater wars. And I had a chance to Zoom with him from Romania for the first time. He goes there on a regular basis. And so this is my conversation with Professor David Schultz, professor of political science, international law, Hamlin University. So,
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well. Wow, you look very different from Romania. What they have done to you?
Okay, well, first off, I'm in Brasov, Romania, which is about 2.5 hours north of Bucharest. So I'm teaching in Transylvania.
Ah.
All right. Now I've not seen Dracula yet. Okay.
You will. I don't think they come out in Ramadan.
I don't think so. Are you allowed to suck blood during the daylight during Ramadan or not? It's only at night, I think, right?
I'm not allowed to suck blood or let anybody suck my blood. I mean, it's two-way street. But how long you been there?
I got here on Sunday. I'll be here till Saturday. Then I head back to the United States. It's just I'm teaching here for 1 week, doing law school teaching.
So I'm assuming this is in a program of some sort.
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
one week.
Yeah. It's part of a well. It's at the University of Transylvania, Brasov, and so I'm doing a small component in a class and talking about American law. So today, when I was talking about, or this morning in Romania, I was talking about our concept of free speech and how we define it in the United States, and then I will be also talking about, let's see what else. I'll also be talking about our concept of right to privacy. And then my two other lectures, one will be on what this is actually of interest to you. What right do civilians have under international law when conflict arises? And then my last lecture will be about the impact of artificial intelligence on human rights.
Whoa, this is you've thrown a lot at me
It
here,
is a
but
lot of it is,
so
and
so
unfortunately, yeah, I was going to say, and unfortunately, one of the lectures, which is all about what rights do civilians have during conflict, unfortunately, that's a topic between what Israel is doing and what the U.S. is doing. Awful lot of civilians having rights violated.
and who protect those rights?
Well, it's supposed to be recognized through the United Nations and by and countries are supposed to recognize them, and they should be protected through the UN and through the Security Council. But of course, as we know, when it comes to great powers like the United States or Israel, we seem to create an exception for them.
Well, isn't it that very much I mean, in your piece and counterpunch, you're not talking about United Nations. I don't think United Nations was mentioned once, but you are
No,
talking about a different global law
right,
that it is the only hope we have now to stop Trump and Trumpism from this war of choice and the destruction of Iran
right.
and what's happening in Gaza in the last 3 years. You're not talking about the American law or international law or the
Nope.
Congress or even the Republicans or anybody or anti-war movement. You're talking about the capitalist law, and that's the only hope we have that the capitalist has its own dynamic and
Right.
imperative and a restriction that can control or what the country can or cannot do. Could you explain it?
So the title of the piece is called "Thank God for Global Capitalism," and there's a lot of irony and sarcasm in this, and that and you had sent me a piece, and I saw it also too. I think in the Nation that said Trump is bringing down the global economy, and it's actually no, the global economy is going to bring down Donald Trump, because what you have to think about here is at the end of the day is that what's the global economy about? It's about capitalism. It's about profits. It's about making sure that at the end of the day that capitalists make the return on investment. And what Donald Trump is doing is putting it mildly, screwing up the global economy. Now he's been doing that for quite a while, with the tariffs and everything like that. But here, by screwing up the oil supply coming out of Straits of Hormuz, by affecting the bond market, he's clearly throwing the proverbial what monkey wrench into global capitalism. And what's happening? Stock market's going down, economy starting to slow down across the world. Uh, Inflation's going to probably kick in. And so global capitalism does what it does best. It issues a veto. And that's what's happening here. He is confronting that reality. And so when I woke up this morning in Romania, where I'm teaching, the headline that I saw in Bloomberg and in Financial Times is said that Donald Trump is thinking of what? Ending the war early. And I thought to myself, yep, capitalism won, Donald Trump zero.
You got
Much in the same way. Remember last year when he declared Independence Day? and he said, we're going to have tariffs. And then the stock market cratered. And suddenly he said, I guess we have to reverse ourselves. What's that phrase? Taco Don. Trump always chickens out. So here, it's not about him chickening out. It's about what? Him being disciplined by the laws of the marketplace.
Well, well, let me just throw a few things and not challenge
Sure.
your premises here. Well, should we give the Iranian retaliation and unexpected resilience is still intact? There is no regime change. We've been bombing Iran for 2 weeks now, and Israel's and technology, and all we have done replacing a Khomeini with another Khomeini.
Yeah,
it's,
that's
it's
right.
like what we did 20 years in Afghanistan, 4 presidents, trillions of dollars spent, and millions of people killed to replace Taliban with Taliban. So
That's right.
the failure is out there, and I don't
Right.
think Afghanistan capitalists had a saying in it. But Leslie Grant, that clown there, Republican clown there, he would say we're going to make a lot of money after we defeat Iran after war. And a lot of people, I think, now start saying this war is gonna stop because we are losing money. I don't think they appreciate what you wrote. I don't think they read your piece, but it's
Right.
just that's how we measure things. How much we want material we're gonna make, but we
Hmm.
never address it. Is this the right war? Is it a human violation, international violation? The argument always about how much money we're gonna make, what we're gonna benefit from this. So does capitalist or capitalism law has this moral or human soul to it, or is just pure market?
A couple of thoughts here. Some people think that capitalism is about sort of what intentional thoughts by capitalists who say we're going to make investment decisions or disinvestment decisions, and therefore, in that approach here, they would evaluate wars in terms of saying that, well, is this in furtherance of our interests or not? I reject that, what I call that's kind of an instrumentalist approach. There's a different reading of capitalism, that capitalism operates according to its own logic. One of my professors, when I was an undergraduate, Emmanuel Wallerstein, sociologist, wrote about the world capitalist system and said it has its own logic. It's like a machine that operates on its own, that defines parameters regarding what the political system can do. I mean, most of us want to think, however naively, that what politics drives capitalism. But his argument would be what? Capitalism drives politics. That it forces eventually, wittingly, but more or less unwittingly, politicians to have to do certain things in order to what? Appease the logic of what? Of the marketplace. And that's what I'm trying to argue here. I'm not arguing that per se capitalists made a decision to go into Iran to make money, although they might have done so. But what's happening here is that the broader need of capitalism and global capitalism to survive forces it to take actions again. It forces people to act in ways that they may not be conscious of, but needless to say, forces them to do certain types of things. I mean, think about the classic argument about technology. In some sense, people introduce technology to replace workers, even though what? Even though technology can't be exploited as well as workers, but it's still done because what? There's kind of this inner drive to maximize profits and cut costs. So here, looking at history, is that we can look at like late 19th century Europe, where the banking industry, held together by the Rothschilds, at least for a few decades, kept the great powers from going to war because it would undermine capitalism. And so this is the same argument I'm making here, is that Trump went in thinking that what? He could go in and basically take Iran or do a variety of things, but it's backfired. The other point that I make is, people want to say that Trump is what? A protectionist, that he wants to retreat from the world. Actually, Trump sits at the helm of predatory capitalism. His he's basically is taking what was it Lenin once said imperialism is the highest form of capitalism.
Yeah, I
I
was
think
gonna ask you about that because
yeah, yeah,
he's mixing both.
yeah. Here, Trumpism is the highest form of imperialism. It's predatorial imperialism where Trump relies upon the US global economic strength to be able to basically to be predatory. And here what's happening is that again, the predatory aspects are being pushed back by broader imperatives on Wall Street, in the global what financial markets that are basically pushing back and saying you can't do this because what? It's gonna it's gonna destroy the global economy.
You quoted the political scientist Charlie Landrum about
Yes.
the capitalism has its own great punishing machine.
Yeah.
So, what is capitalism and who running the show then? I mean, it seems like capitalism is not an American anymore. It's not even Western things anymore. I mean, it's in China, it is in Japan, it is in India. So it's not a
Yeah.
Western imperialism. Anybody run the show? Who are they? I mean,
Not, not, not,
who
not,
punishing
not, not,
what?
yeah, not really anymore. I mean, the way I would describe it here is, I don't know, think of global capitalism like a computer program. It's got its own logic or an algorithm.
Mm.
Algorithms seem to be the word that everybody wants to use these days or something like that. So think of capitalism as having as a machine with its own algorithm that defines how, or a computer program, how things are going to be done. And that sets the context. That sets the context or a box, maybe we'll call it a box, that defines the realm of possible action that political actors can take. And that's what's happening here now is that Trump tried to push and go beyond what let's say the laws of the global economy allowed, and therefore it's snapping back. And so there is nobody really in charge. What's that other phrase? We're always looking for the person behind the green curtain, the reference to the Wizard of Oz or something like that. There is no guy behind a green curtain. Instead, it is what? It is again, forces in logic, almost a machine that would operate itself that determines the logic of capitalism. And with that, creates a box. A box is what I'm looking for that hedges in political choices. And Trump tried to stupidly challenge those boxes and what? Clamping down on them. And that's what's happening now is that somehow in the next few days Trump will declare victory, whatever the hell victory is. I don't know. And the global markets will at least partially, recover. Oil prices will fall down, and Trump will again back down, much like he did last year with the tariffs.
We always quote the Ayatollah of capitalism or from Adam Smith and his
Right.
idea on the market decide everything and greed over government and the greed. I just have problem with this when you develop a system where the overriding forces and motive is greed. So everybody is
Right.
greedy or selfish. The whole society is gonna prosper and think. I mean, there is
Yeah.
something inhuman about these premises. But
Yeah.
it seems like we misquoted Adam Smith and misreading his The Wealth of Nations, and he talked a lot about what you just you're talking about being moral and being honest and being not predator. So he has his fear of this capitalist if you let the market for them. But we never mention any of this. We just focus on the market is the mother milk of solve
Yeah.
all our problem. But when you look,
Sure. If I would say the market will do the right thing in terms of a moral sense. I mean, Adam Smith, when he wrote two famous books. One was, was The Wealth of Nations. The other was the book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And he talked about how there should be moral constraints upon human behavior, including capitalism. However, I would argue now that what's happened is that we have stripped from, if there ever was there, we have stripped those moral constraints from capitalism, and that capitalism defines its own ethic. It defines its own imperatives for how it's supposed to operate. And so that when we say, is capitalism acting immorally or unethically? Well, if we look at it from the outside, yes. But if you look at it from inside, capitalism is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And and it will discipline those people who will try to challenge its basic logic. So the difference, I think the critical difference here is that Adam Smith still saw capitalism contained or confined by, let's say, exterior moral constraints. Here, capitalism is not constrained and basically defines its own perimeters for acceptable behavior. So in the case of Donald Trump, what the logic of capitalism is saying is that actions that will now disrupt a global world economy are
you
going to
know,
be what? You're going to be retaliated against.
uh, you breaking up a little further, but I'm not sure you stop or
Okay, I'm still here. I'm still
okay,
here.
okay. So I mean, aren't you in a way uh, given a pass to Americans, interventionists and imperialists? And this is not the first time Americans attacked sovereign nation for the wrong
Right.
reasons or whatever. Aren't we, in a way, we say, well, was a mistake. Was a Trump war, and we said the same thing as the Johnson war, the Bush war, the Clinton war. How about it's an American war? I mean, those guys are, as you say, politicians are a product, or they're just serving the system, and so it is an American war. It is in the
Right.
history of America. And how this is different than the other wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, elsewhere, and how capitalism played a role in these wars.
Well, it on one level. Okay, so first off, I don't. I agree with you in the sense that I don't support the war either. The war is not right for many different grounds here, from all kinds of moral, international law, human rights type of points of view. It's absolutely wrong. But here, I think the nuance of my argument here is to say that for some reason, Trump, I don't know, let's say he was misguided, thinking somehow that what we would march into Iran, that we would decapitate the Ayatollah. People would run out with flowers, embracing us, much in the same way that isn't that what George Bush said in 2003? That when
Hmm.
we disposed of Saddam Hussein, people were greeting us with flowers and hugs and kisses. And somehow that didn't turn out right. Here, I think Trump was thinking we take control of the Iranian oil markets, and there's what, billions to be made or trillions to be made. Well, he's learning what in less than 2 weeks that his judgment was completely wrong, and that's what's happening here. Is that what he is learning? I don't think he's learning what he's being forced to have to do,
A
is to
second thought, as you
backpedal,
said.
being backpedaling because what he thought, like that, like what somehow he thought that this was going to further U.S. global financial interests, and instead this misadventure is what damaging U.S. global adventures.
Well, let's end this with something here. A lot of people say, well, really, it's not about Trump, but the fact that he just took the mask off about ugly Americans, and there is no
Right.
pretense of liberating Iraqi women, democracy in Vietnam or democracy in Iraq. That's what the Democrats usually, you go under the premises of social culture, and then it is
Mhm.
the same
Sure.
war. And it's just Trump doesn't have a pretense anymore. He just go, we're going to get your oil from Venezuela. We're going to kidnap that president. We're going to go and kill Ali Khamenei, supreme leader. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is actually what the Americans been doing for years. And it's just the fact Trump just took the mask off and he has no pretense.
No, you're right, because I mean, think about how we prettied up American imperialism from 1945 up until recently. We constructed what the global rules-based order, and said, here are the rules for capitalism, and here's the rules for nation states that we expect everybody to follow, except for us. And we'll sort of follow them occasionally. But we can always pretty it up by saying, here's some rule, here's some international law. Saddam Hussein is a bad guy, Gaddafi's a bad guy, et cetera, et cetera. But you've got to at least give Trump credit. He's basically dropped all the pretenses at this point. And the way I would describe it is that hasn't American capitalism now under Trump become just what? Global thuggery. Maybe it
Uh,
always was, but now the
yeah.
thuggery is really clear. Yeah.
And, I always say that Trump and Netanyahu, they, they moved from the two states solution to two thugs solutions. That's what we have, the two thugs solutions. And now they have to think
Yeah.
about it. Well, this is really fascinating. This is the first time I
Yeah.
interview when you are out of the country. Are you, this is
Yes.
my last question to you. Are you freer than me here in the United States in this conversation?
Well, it's interesting here because I don't, I don't feel at all that anything that I'm saying here or in the classroom this week, I don't feel like I have to watch what I have to say. Now, of course, I'm not going to use profanity, and that's a different story entirely, of course, here. But in some sense, I feel freer. So, so in the United States, we want to think we're free to say whatever we want or think whatever we want, but the range of permissibility of dialogue is actually quite narrow when you think about it. Sure, I can go down on Hennepin Avenue. I can go in front of the
Federal building or whatever.
Minneapolis courthouse, and I can say certain things. But here, I can talk about global capitalism. I can talk about U.S. hegemony, and nobody gets upset.
So, what kind of students do you have? A
I
law
have
students.
I have law students. I had this morning. I had about 120 law students.
Oh,
They were about maybe, I don't know, 20, 21 years old. And they're obviously studying European law and Romanian law. But they're also interested in understanding how we compare to the United States, or how they compare to the United States. And uh, they were good students. They asked lots of good questions.
so Romania now in a spectrum of East and West and post-communism. Where they stand?
They're part of NATO. They are in the European Union. They are, again, one of those, what we call post-communist states, I guess
Yeah, yeah.
post-totalitarian, post-communist states, like that. Yeah, exactly like that. Um, uh, and they're a country that is on one level, let's say, waiting to still prosper. What I mean by that, that there, we used to use that old phrase. Remember, in the old days, we would talk about first world, second world, third
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
they're a second world country that's really starting to economically develop. If in Brasov, where I am, if you were to look around, I could tell you something I don't see. What I don't see in Brasov, what I don't see in Bucharest, are people begging on the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Because
go ahead.
I was going to say, because of course, as we all know, go down to what? Hennepin Avenue, go down to Nicollet Avenue. We see people begging on the street. Because remember, in America, we have the right. We have the right to be able to be poor and to beg on the street, of course. I'm not seeing, at least where I am, people begging on the street because after they dismantled, the communist system, they still kept in place as much as they could some of the old social service systems like that. So I'm not going to say there aren't poor people here, but the face of poverty here is different than the face of poverty in the United States.
I was talking a little bit about this, and also I came from Egypt. There's a lot of poverty in Egypt, but you don't see poor people. Here, there is no poverty in America, but there are poor people everywhere. And I'm
Yes.
trying to
Yeah.
figure out why this is the case because
Yeah.
in Egypt and maybe also in other Arab countries, not the Gulf
Yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
there is still, as you say, family, social, somebody help with this. And so you might have a poor person, but in a family member, not poor, they help each other or whatever.
Yeah.
But here, there is the wealthiest nation on earth, but you still see poor people begging on the street because of the breakdown of the family and society. You could lose your job, or you could have a health issue, or a
Right.
billing, or a mental issue. You are out. There is no backup system because the social programs have been taken away, but the family also has been taken away. So there is no backup
Yeah.
socially or economically. But this is
Yeah.
really wonderful to have you. Do you want to finish with
I
1 minute,
have a thought. I
minutes
have a
here?
thought. Okay, I want to tell you. Okay, so earlier this afternoon, um, I wanted to go get lunch, and I went into a restaurant, like a small little restaurant. A guy was running it, and I ordered a falafel sandwich. And as I got there, I didn't have cash with me. I took out my credit card, and he said, "Oh, my system is down. It's not working right now. Do you have cash?" And I said, "Unfortunately not." And he said, "I'll tell you what." He rang up the receipt and he said, "I trust you that you'll come back at some point and pay me." And so I grabbed the sandwich. I went around the block. I found a cash machine and came back and paid him. And actually, I gave him more. And we had this wonderful conversation. And what it was about is he said that, yeah, I'm running a restaurant. I'm here to make money. But at the same time, he said, I'm trying to trust people and I'm trying to be a decent person. And I thought, that's the story. That's the story that I want to tell. It's about what? It's about capitalism, what? Constrained by basic human decency versus oftentimes we don't see anymore in the United States capitalism bound by decency.
Well, on that wonderful note, well, thank you so
Good.
much, Professor David Charles, Professor of Political Science in Hamlin University, also Professor International Law, and he is in Romania giving lecture about international law. You do this on a regular basis. It's not the first time in the East. You go there.
Correct.
Well,
Correct.
well,
Correct. Yep.
enjoy.
Yep.
You coming back in a week or so. Would love to have you back, and thank you so much for this wonderful piece. Wrote a piece in Counterpunch about thanks God for capitalism. I've never
Yep.
read.
Thank
This
God
is
for
wonderful.
capitalism.
In this time of days, people say thanks God for capitalism. That's how bad we are getting in. We are thanking capitalism